Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Voiddyn and today we're going to talk about something a little different. Normally on this channel we talk about standard decks and which ones are the best in the meta, but instead of giving you a full-on Poke Primer like I usually do, let's talk about the post-Budew meta. With Prismatic Evolutions coming out, a lot of new cards have hit the format and none have shaken up the format more than Budew. Budew has the attack Itchy Pollen, which deals 10 damage for no energy, and says during your opponent's next turn they can't play any item cards from their hand. This obviously shaking up a huge amount of the rare candy item-based formats. Things like Snorlax Stall was seen to be taken out, stuff like Charizard seems to be taken out, but let's go over a couple tournaments. The first big tournament happening on the 8th of February was the Regionals in Mexico. Azul GG taking down the format with Miraidon. Miraidon being very heavily favored in this tournament. Coming up in second place was not something that we expected, was Gouging Fire. This was a list that we didn't really expect to see pop off. Gouging Fire EX using that and NTV. Honestly, just trying to dominate the format with those two along with Delphox V as well. We also saw Klawf Terapagos coming back into the format, and finally, something that has been being seen a lot in the format that was doing pretty well was Gardevoir. Gardevoir taking up a bunch of the top 16 slots, but it does not seem to be as hurt by Budew, and doesn't really even seem to be playing Budew. We see a lot of Dragapult Dusknoir, seemingly one of the most safest decks in the format right now, especially with all the lower HP Pokemon. This deck seems to be shaking it up hugely, using Dracloak's Recon Directive to get you out of those item lock states, Dragapult EX to be able to snipe off the bench lines, and being able to fully take advantage of the Budew in the deck. It looks like a lot of these Dragapult Dusknoir decks are playing Budew. But honestly, these lists are so all over the place that you're going to see multiple different variants. Those with Budew, those that don't have it, some even playing Charizard EX as a backup attacker outside of just Dragapult EX. Outside of that, we have a couple of other online tournaments of note to talk about this week to kind of characterize the meta. First, we have Tournament of Doom, Giant Robots, coming out last week, that had Archaludon taking first place, going 10-0, with a very simple list that played Archaludon EXs, along with Snorlax Stall coming in second and third place. This is very interesting for a format that we thought would not actually have Snorlax Stall be a thing, but also Miraidon took third and fourth. We see Gardevoirs as well, a little bit of Charizard, and stuff that looked a lot like the older format. Last but not least, we have the Late Night 240 that showed a lot of the decks that we were kind of looking to see in this Mexico regional. Starting with Dragapult Dusknoir that did take first place, that looks to play two Budew as opposed to the one Budew. It is a straight Dragapult EX deck with some Dusknoirs as well. The thing that took second was Dragapult Iron Thorns playing Gastrodon on the bench to stop those benched Stage 2 Pokemon from having abilities. Honestly, a very cool include. We did see Terapagos and also Gardevoir EX as two decks that did really show up in the format. Honestly, overall, it seems that this format is all over the place. As long as you're not playing Charizard EX as its own deck as we know it, with Pidgeot EX, it looks like your deck is probably doing fine in the format. Now let's go into a little bit of detail how decks have changed with introducing Budew and if any of the Prismatic Evolutions cards have affected the format. First, we'll start with Miraidon. Miraidon looks to not be affected. Looking at Azul's list, seeing that the stuff like Secret Box is still being played, it is still the Area 0 Underdepths list. Honestly, it looks very much like a stock list that was just piloted very effectively. Honestly, and not that much different from a normal Miraidon list. This Gouging Fire list that has recently come up has Gouging Fire EX as the main attacker, NTV as the backup attacker, utilizing Monkey Dories as well. And honestly, it looks to be a very crazy list. This deck is also playing Secret Box and is not playing any of the new cards. Klawf Terapagos is another one that has shown up. It is using the super effective glasses, one-hit KO builds, that exists, and it's taking advantage of a new card. It is using Black Belt's training as a way to get those numbers, to get higher HP knockouts as needed. It looks like it is the first deck that we've seen out of the Mexico regionals to actually use a new card. On top of that, though, it is also taking advantage of Budew, so it is able to lock down your opponents from playing items while also getting everything set up just in case. As for the Gardevoir lists are looking almost exactly the same. A lot of folks were predicting that Budew would be played, but in this regionals, it looks like Budew was not played at all, and honestly, it looks to not be taking advantage of a lot of new cards in the format. It looks to not be relying on as many items due to Budew, and honestly taking more advantage of the Kirlia to be able to discard and draw cards. And finally, the biggest new change in the format is how Dragapult Dusknoir has kind of finally became its own deck. The addition of Budew allows you to lock down the board and kind of get yourself all set up, because as you get momentum as Dragapult Dusknoir, it looks like your opponents will not be able to set up, and you'll really be able to take over the game. Honestly, that's really it from the meta looking right now. If I had to advise on decks that you'd play, Dragapult Dusknoir seems to be a very good one. Gardevoir seems to be very safe. Miraidon seems to be taking over the format again, as you can constantly get set up without having to worry about anything else. Miraidon looks to be very safe, as you are not item dependent on getting set up. And Charizard seems to be missing from a lot of these lists. It does not seem to be as popular as it used to be. And that's it for the meta report of February 2025. If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment down below, drop a like, and give a sub to the channel. Next week, we'll talk more about some other decks that have come out. Maybe we'll get another gameplay video, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.